What's going on, FA Nation? Happy month of March, because it doesn't matter what month it is. We're going to help you dominate on fantasyalarm.com. And it's time to talk about the first DFS NBA slate of the month. My name is Justin Fensterman, along with James Grande. What's up, Grande? Crazy news in this league, huh?
Yeah, man. People are very, very questionable heading into this slate, Fensty. So we're going to have to monitor some news. And I mentioned it earlier with John in the podcast, but looking through the list, I don't love tonight's value. I didn't love tonight's value until we recently got some news out of Philadelphia, but that will definitely provide some clarity for us throughout the slate. And also there's some other news, like we got news in San Antonio and in other spots, but didn't love the value earlier in the day. It's definitely opened up a little bit as the day has progressed.
Well, in case you couldn't tell by the context clues, very questionable is Joel Embiid in the latest report that we're getting out of the Philadelphia side. So it's a good matchup. However, now it's looking like he's not going to be playing, so we're going to have to shift gears and look at other players that could benefit with higher usage if Joel Embiid sits. Other injuries we've got going on: Malcolm Brogdon is questionable with a knee injury. Tobias Harris is out. Gordon Hayward is doubtful. Eric Gordon's questionable. Chetty Osman is questionable. Devontae Graham is still out. Keldon Johnson, who I thought would be returning, he's still going to be out for conditioning purposes. Same with Derek White, Rudy Gay, Devin Vassell. And then we have Cody Zeller, doubtful with that hip injury. Jeff Green's out. Gary Harris, Jermichael Green, Campazzo being doubtful. There's some health protocol issues going on in Denver in that regard. Gary Harris is still out. Jermichael Green still out. Paul Millsap still out. Jeremy Lamb is questionable with a knee injury. James Ennis out, and TLC from, no, not the group, but the guard forward from Brooklyn, he is also out as well. Grande, did I miss anyone? Because news just continues to change. It seems like every 3.5 minutes.
Not listed on the injury report, but I do question whether John Wall is going to play on a back-to-back.
Yeah.
Was not listed on the injury report, but if he's sits, it's not because of an injury, it's because of rest. So I'd like to see, Silas said yesterday he will, make that decision today. That hasn't happened yet. So we'll see about John Wall, but that game doesn't tip until 9, so we might not know. But I mean, there's some pretty strong implications there, because that can open up a lot of value. So hopefully we do get that news, hopefully during the stream before lock, just as long as it's not 7:01 or 8:01 or 9:01.
Possible, like Kevin Garnett said, Grande. So we got to be prepared for everything. So we're going to talk a lot of value because, like you said, I was doing the starting five. I had a lot of trouble with it when finding a nice value spot. We'll talk about that. Let's talk about John and Pemba's DFS NBA playbook, fantasyalarm.com. Go over some of the plays in there and some other players of our interest as well. As always, we'll start with the high-priced point guards. And to you, Mr. Grande, we've got a few options here. Luka on the board versus Orlando is just so beautiful. But then, do we have to pay up for Luka? Because with this Denver situation, they need bodies to score out there. And Jamal Murray versus the Bulls, man, it's almost too good to be true.
So I definitely think you can pay up for Luka. The point guard position in Orlando is getting torched no matter who is there. They're a bottom 3 team in terms of DVP against the position. So I definitely think you can go to Luka. Do I think you need to? No. You can also pay up for Damian Lillard, who didn't make John's playbook, who's in a advantageous spot. So you can spend up, but I do agree. Jamal Murray has been lighting it up. There's no rhyme, there's no other way to put it. Both Murrays here in the playbook, honestly, Fancy, and that's probably the reason why I don't think you do need to go up to Luka. If I'm building 10 lineups, Luka probably makes about 4 of them, I would say, and I mostly live in this mid-tier, and that's including Ben Simmons, who could become one of the top plays overall.
Oh, yeah.
If Joel Embiid is eventually ruled out, which I guess we're expecting, but who knows? Doc Rivers didn't even know Joel Embiid was questionable the other day. He's like, oh, that's news to me. And then he was ruled out right before lock. So I'm taking Doc Rivers' words with a grain of salt. And as the Fantasy Alarm family knows quite a bit, lip service a lot of the time when it comes to Doc Rivers. So
he's the most overrated coach in history. Oh my God!
I don't dispute that. That's not something that I'm here to debate, because I tend to agree. He's been put in some pretty good positions in his days.
How dare I say that? He brings people together. Wow.
Yeah.
That's what a coach is supposed to do. Yay! Seriously.
But yeah, I mean, his point guard tonight is in a pretty good spot, especially if we already know Tobias Harris is ruled out, and if Embiid does sit out. We saw, I mean, Simmons had the best game of his professional career when these guys were out not too long ago. 42, 12, and 9. So, and that was again against the current best team in the NBA and the Utah Jazz. So I don't think he would have as much trouble with Indiana. You'd have a better matchup in this one against Indiana. So I think if you want to go Luka, it's fine. But I think Murray, Simmons in this next tier are all elite options.
Yeah, just want to pass along another piece of injury news. Taurean Prince will not play tonight.
That's interesting, because
this ankle is really bothering him, and they just continue to take it day by day. And just when they seem to be over the hump, it reacts, and that's it. It's very strange that all of a sudden this appears. So no Taurean Prince tonight for the Cavs, but continuing with the mid-tier point guards, I mean, is there anybody else that you like? How did you, me, and John and Pemba were talking earlier about Mike Conley. How do you feel, especially about the Jazz guards? Because you want to talk about a backcourt to pick apart. Grande, I say it so much now on shows, in the starting five videos. Eric Bledsoe is not the same guy anymore, man. He doesn't play a lick of defense like he did even 3-4 years ago. You can crush ball. Please, another guy doesn't play good on the ball defense, pun intended, but Utah's guards are in a prime spot tonight. Am I wrong?
No. I think I just overlooked him a little bit throughout the day, and it's probably because I was a little curious about why this game had a 236 over under. I just didn't see it. I still don't see it getting there. It's still 236.5, which is up from 230 where it opened at 234.5. So I think I just overlooked Conley. But I mean, the price is great. The spot is great. I lean more cash games for Mike Conley, but if you want to get different in tournaments, I mean, we've seen 45, 50-point upside out of him. So I do think he is in a great spot. And New Orleans is a bottom 3 defense in the NBA. For what they have constructed over there with all this young talent, none of them play defense. So I do think Mike Conley is in a pretty good spot. And John put Lonzo in the playbook, and he has played well. And I love using Lonzo Ball in DFS, but I don't particularly want. Oh, he put LaMelo. I take it back. I saw L Ball, and then I went to a different page. That's just a mistake. I take it back, John. I am sorry. LaMelo definitely in play against Portland for sure.
Let's just forget that just happened.
Yeah, let's please, yes, and we can just move on. Yeah.
Man, this is why we can't have nice things. Let's move on to the shooting guard spot, because you're not into James Harden tonight, right?
You're trying to bait me here, Fency, and I'm not taking the bait. Yeah, of course I am. I mean,
the Spurs guards, man, they suck.
Yeah.
How does Pop let this happen? They're an awful backcourt defensively.
They are bad. They are bad. And I mean, I'm not gonna avoid playing James Harden because of one bad game. I mean, let's face it, right? He had one bad game where everyone's like, "Oh wow, I don't know if we could play James Harden now that Kyrie's like." That's just not true. Even with Kyrie back, he's an elite play. The ownership speaks to it. The production outside of his one bad game speaks to it. Lock and load James Harden, whatever format you want. And I do want to just circle back quickly, Fency, and I want to give a shout out to Shake Milton at the point guard spot, who gets the biggest usage bump when Tobias Harris and Joel Embiid are off the floor. And again, Embiid not officially ruled out, very questionable per Doc Rivers, or actually there was 2 varies. So my apologies for excluding one of the varies. Biggest usage bump on the board, 7.3%. That is not something that we can overlook at all. That is something that stands out like a sore thumb. 30% usage rate without those guys. Like, he's $4,500 on DraftKings. He's almost like he would be a core play for me if and when Joel Embiid is ruled out. So I do want to just quickly give some love to Shake because I think that price you just can't ignore it if both those guys are off the floor. We've seen some big games out of him, and for him to be 4,500, that's just it's an instant lock and load for me, all formats. But yes, back to James Harden, also a lock and load.
Look at this treasure diver over here, Mr. James Grande. That's what you do, though. That's how we play. When a big guy like Embiid is about to sit, there's a lot of action that's going to go around because the offense is just centered around him. And Harris potentially out as well with that. Whoa, you're right. There's a lot of openings because Ben Simmons can't really shoot. So somebody's going to have to make shots there.
Whoa, he hit his second three of the season the other day, Fancy. I don't know if you saw it. It was a smooth pull-up J on the right wing at the end of the quarter. And yeah, shout out to the second and last three that he makes all season long.
There you go. And not relating to that at all, we've got more injury news here coming out of Indiana. Malcolm Brogdon, Jeremy Lamb, both officially game time decisions. So, which is not good because we want this. We want to know now. We just want, every time I see game time decision, like the look you just saw Grande give, that's what I was just doing in my head as well. Because now we're going to be strung along the entire time with two key shooters in a good matchup. And now we don't know what to do until they're ruled out. So that will continue to go, and watch that as well as the news continues to break. But let's continue talking about middle tier shooting guards that you like, because I mean, the matchup that we have to be looking at constantly throughout tonight, Charlotte-Portland. I mean, no defense.
Yeah, I think Charlotte, Portland, and San Antonio, Brooklyn, basically the two matchups at the shooting guard position. We have five guys at shooting guard listed from these two games. Demar Derozan, someone that you, John, and I have talked about all day long, in a great spot against Brooklyn. I think we could say it we've said it ad nauseum. Attack Brooklyn, attack Brooklyn, attack Brooklyn, from all angles. And obviously you take the other team's best player, and that's where we land with DeMar DeRozan. Terry Rozier, I agree. 6,800 is too cheap, Bency. That the price tag is too cheap for a guy that we just saw on a string of games go for 30 actual and 3 straight. I mean, I'm definitely willing to go back to the well 6,800. At 8,000 is a little too steep for me on DraftKings. That price tag, I'm not going to be paying it, but I mean, I'll let other people do it. And then Bruce Brown, Lonnie Walker. I mean, no Keldon Johnson. I think Lonnie Walker's minutes are pretty secure. No Derek White as well. The Lonnie Walker minutes are going to be secure. Only $4,200 over on FanDuel is too cheap. And then Bruce Brown, who, Jeff Green ruled out. We know Kevin Durant's obviously out. There's no TLC, so maybe even a couple extra second unit minutes going Bruce Brown's way. I think all of these two games are just kind of viable.
Yeah, no, this is one we're going to be stacking for sure. Two great matchups on the board. We mentioned Charlotte, Portland as well. Any love for point guard Donnie, who's not point guard Donnie anymore, but I still like calling him that anyway.
I mean, I wish he was point guard Donnie, because that is the best version of Mitchell. I mean, he's been tremendous.
Scoring a lot lately, man.
I don't know, because of price point. I don't think we need to go there. I think if you want to get different, it's fine, because if New Orleans keep this game close, it's not because they're locking Utah down. It's because they're scoring themselves. So you can go there. I'm not going to. I'd rather save like $2,000 and go to Conley, or I'd rather just probably play guys from either the Brooklyn game or the Charlotte game here at shooting guard, because there's so many different options. So Ken doesn't feel like the slate to do it at this price point. It feels like, at this price point, I need Mike Conley to be out. I should have just let it end with that. At $8,600, if Mike Conley's out, I'd consider it. But considering we're going to see 30 minutes of Conley, I don't think you need to go there.
Let's start talking about the Denver Nuggets and their situation, because we obviously know about Jamal Murray, we know about Jokic, but there's got to be some value there as well when it comes to their midcourt, because they're now down a couple of guards, it's looking like, and they're still down their forwards. They're still down Green. They're still down Millsap. And we're going to get to Michael Porter in a second, because I couldn't wait to even talk about it. But if we want to go cheap, are there any other Denver options that you would be looking at?
I mean, there's only 3 Denver guards available. Jamal Murray, we know we love. And then it's Monty Morris and PJ Dozier. Morris has played good. He's been consistent. He's playing 28-plus minutes every night, giving us 23 fantasy points per game over that span of 5 games. So I think he's fine for cash. Dozier's interesting because I didn't expect to see his ownership projection where it is. I get it. The price point is good. I get that Denver is down a lot of guys, but he missed a month.
Can I stop you right there? And I'm asking this because I legitimately don't know. How is it so different in a $700 difference? How on FanDuel is it under 4%? And on DraftKings, it's over 48%. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, DraftKings, so FanDuel, you get the $60,000 to spend. DraftKings, you get $50,000. On FanDuel, you have to play PJ Dozier at the shooting guard spot, whereas DraftKings, you can play him shooting guard, small forward, guard, forward, util. You can plug him into 5 different spots, which opens up opportunity to get in a plethora of different guys. So there's more opportunity and to spend up on 2 guys on DraftKings using Dozier, as opposed to FanDuel, where you can spend up and get, let's say, Harden and Luka without using a PJ Dozier, because there's enough value and you have enough money over there. So we do see that quite a bit. But this is one of those instances where it's like, okay, we have more money on FanDuel. We have, a more condensed option to use him, because we can only use him at shooting guard as opposed to on DraftKings, literally 5 different positions. So that's really where that stems from.
Very nice. Look at that. Nice little teaching lesson from Professor Grande. Let's move on to the threes and talk about where we're going here, because you want some value. It looks like here's where we'll be able to find a little bit more. And when it comes to and forgetting any kind of price order here, because we're not going up too high when it comes to pricing. But Michael Porter Jr., man, I mean, you know the Bulls very well. You followed them extra closely for your entire life. My thing with Porter is, and when you and John and I talk, when we all talk, if he can attack the rim successfully, he's going to keep doing it. The second he's stopped a few plays, he resorts more to the shot, and that's when I want to pull my non-existent hair out. But tonight, with the Bulls still having a little bit of personnel issues up front, and with now Denver's health issues, I almost feel like he's a lock and load everywhere. Both sites, let's go.
So I want to just go back to your first point about the attack. I do agree that he needs to attack the rim. I don't agree that he should stop shooting, because he's very efficient. He's very efficient in both of those. So I think he just needs to shoot more overall and have the times where he's going to the rim and shooting, because he's a 40% shooter from 3. And at 6'10", or 6'9", whatever his official height is, it's very, very, very difficult to guard. I mean, we've seen that throughout the years with, let's just say Kevin Durant in terms of offensive, firepower. I mean, if Michael Porter is taking 20 shots a game, I don't want him to just take 3 or 4 threes. I want him to take 7 or 8, because he's that good of a shooter. But I do think that this is one of those matchups that he can definitely exploit. And he has been exploiting good matchups. Portland, Washington, OKC, 3 straight double-doubles, 2 straight games of at least 18 points as well. So you love to see the shot attempts on the rise. You love to see the points on the rise. And that's going to continue against the Bulls, who I will say are improving. And I want to preface it by saying much improved basketball team. The addition of Patrick Williams defensively has been a help. But I do think that Michael Porter can take advantage of him a lot here, and not to mention this position sucks today. It is not deep at all. So I definitely think Michael Porter stands out as one of the better options here.
I mean, let me give you a glimpse on someone else who's in. We're talking Derek Jones Jr. today,
and we're high on him. And you, myself, and John have talked about him all day, and we're high on Derek Jones. But like that just speaks to the position tonight and what it can offer you. Because Derek Jones is not really offering you the upside. I mean, he's offering you a pretty solid floor, and he's been good. A better producer on FanDuel, where he's giving you a lot of blocks, and we know can get you steals and rebounds and stuff too. But yeah, I mean, I would say if I'm not using Michael Porter, and I think Evan Fournier falls in like to that same category as Michael Porter as well. Malik Monk and Danny Green are probably the two guys that I'm looking at the most. Danny Green benefits obviously from Harrison and Embiid being off the floor. I mean, I think everyone in their mothers and their mothers and their benefit from Embiid and Harris off the floor. You know, I mean, it's just they're the two top usage players on their team. And then Malik Monk, man, 20 or more actual points in 4 straight and 5 of 6. We keep saying it, Fancy. Play Malik Monk while these guys are out, and he's going to score.
I've been Mr. Skeptical on him.
He just look. You can be as skeptical as you want of Malik Monk.
He continues to score.
He just scores. He just scores. Like, and I don't doubt. Like, I don't. You're not wrong when it comes to Malik Monk, the player.
I never want to play Malik Monk because I'm like, okay, is this going to be the day he scores 8 points and that's it? Like, but it keeps happening. And so, thus far, since we've started really focusing on him, when Graham went out and then Hayward got hurt, then I've been totally wrong on him. I've not wanted to play this guy, but I acknowledge that he continues to score.
Yeah, I think that's the key. You brought up the key right there. It's Graham and Hayward. It's not just like one of the two. Like they're missing both. So he's gonna play shooting guard and he's gonna play some at the 3 as well when they run their 3-guard, their like 3-headed monster with Rozier and LaMelo and usually Graham, but now Monk. So I do think Malik Monk Price didn't raise a single iota from yesterday. 4,900 Sunday, 4,900 Monday. Load up on Malik Monk against a bad Portland defense.
Let's move on to the power forwards and talk about some of the big men here, because I got to ask you this. Even though Porzingis is probable, it's a back. When you see that, will you still go after the player if he's been out for a few games, or are you in kind of wait and see mode to see if it flares up? It is a back.
He looked really good against Brooklyn. Like, he was moving well against Brooklyn, and the 26 minutes at first, you're like, oh, coming off an injury, only 26 minutes. Well, they blew him out. So, like, I get it. It is a back. Thankfully, they have the best training staff in the world, and that's the one of the long list of luxuries that you have as a professional athlete. So I think he's fine. I don't know if Orlando can keep this game close.
I worry about that too.
That's more my concern. I guess in Orlando, you generally you give them the benefit of the doubt being at home, but I like Porzingis, and it's not, again, I don't like the top tier of this position. So, I think people
I was going to say, so you're out on Zion and Ingram potentially going up against the Jazz. I normally don't like to mess with the Jazz.
I don't think you need to mess with the Jazz. Like, again, like this is not your run of the mill. Like, this is the best team in the NBA, Utah Jazz. We're talking about right now. As of right now, they are the best team in the league. So I just don't think you need to. And Jonathan, have Sabonis here, and I think Sabonis, now that there's no Embiid, I know like the price point obviously not great, and the recent production the last 2 games, not where you want a guy who's 10K, but there's no Embiid to stop him in the interior. And I know Embiid didn't play the last game, and I get it, and he still wasn't effective against Philly. But like, if Brogdon doesn't play, Embiid's not playing potentially. There's no Tobias Harris. You're telling me that Sabonis can't deal with like Mike Scott or, I mean, Simmons, I guess they would probably shift Simmons to guard Sabonis, right? Because they started Korkmaz last game, and then the second half they started Mike Scott. So I guess I'd be interested to see how they would like deploy their lineup. Because Tobias is already out, so like, what is the Philly starting lineup going to look like? I'm interested in Sabonis. I'm not interested in Zion. I know I get the current form. I get that he's averaged almost 40 fantasy points against them, but we're paying $9K. I'll save it for a different matchup. Not really in on Ingram.
You're right. We've got a good mid-tier, and John has him in the playbook here. I mean, we got Aldridge with still some guys out in San Antonio against Brooklyn, whose front court is depleted. Yep. And then you got P.J. Washington.
Oh, yeah. The chalk of the night, Fensty.
Yeah. He made the starting five for this reason. 6,200 across the board, and he's going to get those minutes at center. Cody Zeller's not playing. No. I know he's down. He's not playing. It's a hip injury, okay? So nothing's changed. He's going to get, and I know that a lot of people are going to be like, oh, he's coming off that big scoring game and everything. It doesn't matter. They don't have any other options. They don't have any versatility. They've got one-dimensional players in Bismack Biyombo. That's about it. They don't have two-way options. And this guy is essentially their knight in shining armor.
I mean, like, let's not forget the reason why people played him in Sacramento. Yes, it was Sacramento, but he scored 43 fantasy points the game prior. He went for 15, 10, 4, and 4 freaking steals. So to think that we're chasing P.J. Washington is crazy. He gets a good matchup against Portland in a nice tempoed game with a big total. I mean, with an injured team, so like you're not chasing. I think you could play P.J. Washington in any format you would like, whether it be cash or tournaments, because the price point is. Let's say it's ridiculous for what we're encompassing here. So I love PJ Washington. I do like Aldridge quite a bit. I think we are higher on Aldridge than the masses, and I think the ownership kind of shows that. But I think that this could be a game where we get Aldridge up to like close to 30 minutes, and there's no Calvin Johnson, there's no Derek White, there's no Rudy Gay. So I mean, I'm in on LaMarcus Aldridge. And I think he's too cheap, especially on FanDuel 56. And I'm gonna have a lot of shares, man.
What do you think of Jared Allen versus Houston?
I think that Jared Allen is a freak of nature, and I don't want to ever fade him in DFS again.
Even at 8,500?
He went for 61 fantasy points in this matchup on the 24th of this month. So by my calculations, Fensty, that is 8x. That is almost 8x, I think, math off the top of my head, at the current price. So, yeah, I get it. And I get it's, like, hard to just say, like, oh, well, he put up 61 last time he faced him. He's going to do it again. Well, he went on a little string of 43, 56, 45, 61. So it's not really out of the realm of possibilities that he does it again against a front court with nobody. So
and speaking of a front court with nobody, that's pretty much what he's on as well outside of him, because they've still got guys that are out. So
yeah, Dean Wade
is raised for him until
Dean Wade
returns.
Dean Wade, that is who he's going to be starting alongside. Guy with two first names. Yeah. Yes, Dean Wayne Wade. Dean Wayne Wade.
Wow, that's amazing. It's good to have him back in the league.
Good to have him playing power forward for the Cavs.
Well, he grew too. That's what he's doing. Retirement. Jeez. Let's go over that center position because Jokic.
Yep.
Because Wendell Carter Jr. does not play any kind of defense, and Jokic is going to completely destroy. And we've given you so much value on the board. So happy spend up for this guy. Now we talked about the situations up top. Grande. I mean, right? There's no other. I mean, you're spending up for Jokic.
Yeah, and this ownership, Fancy, just looking at it is just my mouth is salivating. Not because dinner's after this live stream, but because under 15%, where everyone's going to spend up on Luka, everyone's going to spend up on Harden. I mean, Jokic could easily be the highest scorer on the slate. Easily.
It's
Easily.
Chicago.
Don't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go Bulls. Not going to work out well though, against Jokic. But another center, if let's say you don't want to go with Jokic, Enes Kanter, the rebounding man. It's been awesome. What, 13 plus over his last few games? I mean, come on, man. I know it's only points and boards with them for the most part, but the price point, especially on FanDuel, 6,300, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's crazy. And that's something that John and I were talking about on the podcast. Why did that happen? I mean, we're talking about a guy coming off like big performance. I mean, you were talking about rebounds, but just like 17, 14, 15, 13 last 4 games. Then fantasy points, 38, 40, 29, 40. But he's 6,300? Like, there's something wrong with the algorithm there.
Doing this lately, bro. I don't know why. And I was used to them kind of giving the price bump to all the players, but lately they've had a few of these big men that are very low priced. And we've taken advantage of them. And this is just another example. It's Charlotte. It's PJ Washington and Bismack Biyombo. That's almost like a non-existent front court defense. It's serious. And to see him and Jokic where they're at, to me, are there any other options? I don't think there are. I've been in on Kanter all day without looking at anyone else.
I think you can get really dirty if you want to play Justin Patton on DraftKings 3,200. Because you can play Kanter as well. You know, you can play Kanter if you want to play Justin Patton as well. And then I think the interesting piece of the puzzle becomes Dwight Howard, because if Embiid doesn't play, it's not the best matchup against Indiana, but it's also not a bad one.
He doesn't need a lot of playing time to put up points, boards, and blocks.
And Fancy, we don't even necessarily need the playing time. He's only $3,500. So if Dwight Howard played, I don't know, 23 minutes, he could get us 30 fantasy points, and we're sailing off to Costa Rica with $100,000 in our pockets because he just hit 8x value at 3,500. So, I'm gonna have to really think about, because he didn't start last time. If you remember, I believe Tony Bradley started the last game that Embiid sat, or Dwight started and then Tony Bradley came in at halftime. There was like some weird. There was like, they hate Dwight Howard. I don't know. I guess Doc in his meeting, this great meeting that he had in the preseason, didn't go too well. Mike Scott started, says producer John. Mike Scott, but Dwight played 26 minutes off the bench. So, hey man, I'm not even asking for 26 minutes, but I definitely have interest in Dwight if Joel Embiid is ultimately ruled out, which of course we still don't have.
Nope, we don't, James. We thought we would have it during the stream, but wrong again, my man. But you can follow James on Twitter at @the_real_Grande. You can give me a follow on Twitter at FenceDSports. We thank John and Pemba for producing this program. Get in the chat, get those lineups set. A lot of news that's just swirling right now. Still waiting on some final decisions regarding Indiana, regarding Philly. Let's all do it together like a family. Let's dominate, but most importantly, let's win.